only live on www.radio-next.tv and the internet platform that is running around the world right now. Hello, Belgium. Uh, Don, I serve syrup on the Belgian waffle as well, and and I am just so happy to have my brother Donald Sawyer in, and he is bringing a much-needed documentary and film to the city of Indianapolis that is addressing homelessness. And what we want to do is talk about that and talk about some of the problems that we face when we start dealing with homelessness. Donald Sawyer, welcome into Jumbo Love and the Jumbo Love Show.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Man, first of all, before let me give credit where credit is due, is because I just love me some Jake Query, and I listen to his sports show when I'm out in my vehicle because he does more than talk about sports, and he usually hits on topics that face our community, especially when we start talking about topics in the African American community, and he always, bridges that gap. So I want to thank him. And then thank my brothers, Pastor David Green, Pastor Wayne Moore, for having you on yesterday to give this much needed information to the community in as many stages that we can get Mr. Donald Sawyer on. We're going to about this call. So thanks them for that. First of all, Donald Sawyer, introduce you to the listening audience and this Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube audience.
Well, I'm Don Sawyer. I'm producer and director from A Bigger Vision Films. We're a film production company that's based in Indianapolis. I'm from Richmond, Indiana, but lived 20 years in LA, so I have dual citizenship. And I'm living in Indianapolis since 2012. And so this is my home at this point. And I'm a musician by trade. I became a filmmaker. The joke is that I moved to Indianapolis from LA to become a filmmaker. But I was helping out with a homeless camp, the Davidson Street homeless camp down over by the Salvation Army down at Davidson Street. And, I was just sitting down there, helping out, and some guys with cameras came down and asked the guy who ran the camp, Maurice Young, if they could come down and make a documentary and interview some of the people in the camp to dispel some stereotypes. And he asked me to come down when they were going to come down. I didn't understand why until they started putting cameras in some of the campers' faces, and they almost got beat down.
Yeah, don't put me out there like this.
Yes, exactly. So my job was to give them street cred as they went around, camp cred, because the people in the camp knew me. And we started talking, and I had experience in the entertainment industry, and they had aspirations to make a documentary. They got into festivals and stuff. And I was like, not this way. So I helped them. And then, we went across the street after being in the camp to like Wheeler Mission, IMPD, to Chip and the mayor's office, and realized there's two different realities. One is real, one is some kind of imaginary situation about homelessness by the people who were tasked to bring solutions to the table. And that was a story. It was a big story that wasn't being told in this city by media in this city. And we had to decide, do we stick with the original plan, or do we tell the story that's in front of us? And we decided to do that. And of course, the wrath of the city and the homeless response system players here in Indianapolis came upon us as a result, which at that point, I'm from LA, so I'm not, that was, don't roll at me like that, because, well,
you've dealt with more drama than you could ever imagine with the fragmented system that happens in LA. So don't try that with me, basically.
See Drake, anyway, so I stood firm on, we told the truth. We didn't, the whole film was about what your folks were saying. So we're fine, and we'll just stand here and take it. But long story short, that film became Under the Bridge. Um, it all produced three pieces of legislation that was passed here, homeless protection legislation, but nothing about solutions. So we took the film around the country. The film, everybody said, yeah, that's happening here too. What's the solution? So this film that we've made now is about solutions. And I'll let you jump in if you want to, because I'll just.
Basically, when you start talking about solutions, I think the first place that we have to start is to bring the audience, and bridge awareness about the fact that as you mentioned, misconception of homelessness. And just like African American people, homeless is not monolithic. It's not like everybody who's homeless is dealing with the same issue. I'm gonna be very candid. I married a queen when I was in 2008. We started this nonprofit together. We started Radio Next.TV together. Life situations changed. She didn't want to continue with this journey. And at that stage in life, I'm like, how dare you not want to keep doing what you dreamed for? So I decided to bail. When I bailed, I didn't realize the harsh realities of where am I going to go live now? I went emotionally, Don, I'm going to be honest. And had it not been for the grace of a few friends, because couch surfing is homeless. People don't know. But for about 9 months, I was living with dear friends of mine who let me live with them. And then I thought one day, man, you are homeless. You don't have a place if these people who love you said, get out. So we're not dealing with drug addicts or alcoholics who just said, I quit and let me go be homeless. So let's first talk about the homeless demographics, those mothers and families with children, those people who got divorced and were doing well and lost it all. Let's talk about the different dynamics of homelessness, I guess.
Okay. The homeless population is filled with everybody there's not, like you say, there's not a monolithic homeless individual. For example, 40% of those who age out of foster care become homeless within the first 18 months. Wow. There's that. I was speaking with someone this morning who's a social worker who was telling me that 76 of her families that she works with, mostly African American, ended up just recently, last week, in eviction court.
Jesus. Which now the next step probably is homeless if you don't have infrastructure or family.
If you don't have family, you don't have friends, to catch you, then the street catches you. I'll give you just a couple of other examples. One year when I was I couldn't come back to Indiana for Christmas and I was living in LA, I said, okay, well, I barbecued a bunch of food because that's what you can do in December in California. I was barbecuing a bunch of food and I bought some just little gifts and I took them down in boxes and put them on a picnic table at Skid Row. So I spent my Christmas morning with folks that were homeless. And there was this white guy who, scraggly beard and everything, really short, and he was just looking at me, watching me. And after everything broke up, he came up and started talking to me. And I was like, this guy's smart. And then I was having a hard time following how smart he was. And he's like, this guy's really smart. And then I was like, I can barely keep up with this guy. And then he said, blah, 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 until I blew a screw in my head, And I was like, oh, here it comes. And I said, well, what did you do before? And he said, I was a rocket scientist. And I was like, right. Okay. Now the crazy's coming out. And he was like, no, I was a rocket scientist. I worked for JBL, which is the NASA rocket place out in California. And I said, you didn't have any family or any colleagues that could catch you when you had your problem? He was like, no. And so he's on the street. In Denver, when we were making this film, there's a lawyer who was just sitting at a stop. A woman rammed into him at 60 miles an hour. His hospital bills threw him into homelessness because after he couldn't pay them anymore, he started self-medicating. He couldn't, get the medication that he needed, and now he's addicted, and now he's in a camp that we visited, right? So it's everybody. Everybody is home. It's not, the public thinks that there's a bunch of monsters, losers, drug addicts, mentally ill, dangerous people. That's not who the homeless population is.
And that's where I want to pause, because I want people to understand that, because many times we stereotype anyone with a mental illness, anyone who is addicted to drugs. They think that this is something that people just chose to go do, and many times life happens, and you're not equipped or able to know where resources might be. You're not equipped and able to know where proper housing is, and there probably isn't proper housing if you go through a little bit of trauma in your life. Now, when you start talking about these numbers, man, I was listening and driving yesterday to you on Pastor Moore. Great show. If the audience is listening, Morning Fellowship, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock every morning on Facebook. And you were talking about the population of African Americans. And I do a lot of stats, and sometimes people get mad at me because I'm not the expert. Tell them about the stats of the population base in Indianapolis, and then the homeless rate and the percentage of African Americans that make up our homeless population here in the city.
Right. So in Indianapolis, the African American percentage is just over 30%. The homeless rate of homeless families in Indianapolis is somewhere between 67 and 70%. So that is called disproportionality. That means that a huge crisis is happening in the African American community. Over 50% of overall homeless rate in Indianapolis is Black. It is disproportionately hitting the Black community in Indianapolis. Indianapolis is not unique. That's the way it is all across the country. Nationally, African Americans are 13% of the population. 37 to 40% of the national homeless population is African American. In Atlanta, 90%, somewhere between 87 and 90%.
So this is systemic. This is not just one city, one demographic region. This is systemic.
The thing about Indianapolis that what people especially people who are trying to revise history these days, history matters. It is ingrained in tradition and culture, matters. And the thing about Indianapolis that Indianapolis glosses over in terms of its effect today is this used to be the headquarters of the Klan.
They don't want to hear
that. I'm sorry, I don't care.
And you can get, look, I heard you on Pastor Moore in the church yesterday, but damn it, you can cuss on some Jumbo Love this Saturday morning, baby.
Well, I mean, so what that means systemically is back when the society was being formatted, the institutions were being made and stood up. The consideration for African Americans in the society here was like, you can rake my yard and you can pour my coffee, but outside of that, you best not be in my way.
Yeah, don't think too much.
Right. So in terms of housing, redlining, Indianapolis was redlined into certain neighborhoods. The African American population was redlined into certain neighborhoods. And one of those neighborhoods is where IUPUI right now is. So when you this is the treatment that African Americans as a population have um, have received in Indianapolis. Now, when you look at what's how the disproportionality of homelessness is hitting the African American community, if you put it in context, it makes a little more sense. And it also tells you how you have to approach it if you're going to affect change.
Well, that leads me into the next part. I know this is solutions, and I love solutions, brother, because really we cannot wait. I was listening to you yesterday, candidly talking about our leaders,
Mm.
and I'm a little bit older, so let me throw this at you, just some jumbo love.
All right.
If you are paid to be a voice of Black America, more than likely you are paid not to tell Black America most of the things they really need to know. Like you say, I mean, honestly, once they pay you to get to that level, they are pretty much telling you what you are going to say, what you can say, and what you can't. And when you stay free, you struggle a little bit because I will never get rich doing this, but I will be wealthy knowing that I am truly giving information that is real, raw, organic, and authentic. So I just wanted to get that out the way. And I said, this brother, man, don't depend on these folks who they have labeled to be our voice, because they will wait. And as you mentioned, sit back, won't say anything, and then call you at the last minute to say, I did respond. That's not how this works. So when we start talking about solutions, I shared with you yesterday, my nonprofit, I'm not trying to do red tape. I'm trying to say, I know where a big house is. It costs about $1,800 a month. I know some brothers who have Social Security and pensions that are seniors that are all in a situation like me, and we can coexist. If you've been in the military or if you've been to college, you had to share a dorm room. So now instead of $1,800, slice that up times 4. And you have one problem solved versus somebody trying to pay $1,800, utilities, and all those other things that come along with living. That's just a solution. So when we start talking about solutions, and you've been around and traveled over 40,000 miles looking at different places in different cities, where solution wise do you start as the expert?
Are we talking about solutions to homelessness?
Oh, yes. That's
Okay.
it.
All right. So the solutions to homelessness, there's what's called the upstream causes of homelessness, and there's the downstream. What everybody's focused on is the downstream. Like, okay, they're homeless. How do they get housed? That's downstream. You have to go upstream to turn off the faucet that's throwing people into homelessness. So you have institutions that run any place. They're common to every place. There's a judicial system, there's law enforcement, there's the government of a place, there is there are nonprofit service providers, nonprofit hospitals, mental health services, addiction services, um, faith-based services, volunteers, all of it, all trying to help this situation in their own way. And what it is, it's a mad scramble of ridiculous, you know, ridiculous efforts that not ridiculous efforts that have no chance of solving the problem.
Let me say this. If you look at a bicycle, one spoke cannot make the wheel roll.
Exactly.
Period. And we have many nonprofit organizations that mean so well. I'm hearing what you're saying, because that is why RadioNext.tv exists. As a nonprofit organization, I saw many organizations doing well in one area, but you need something else and something else and something else to make this program truly work and be effective. So working together is the only way it's going to happen, because it might be somebody who provides food. It might be somebody who provides financial literacy. It might be somebody who provides workforce development. It might be somebody where the number one called housing. And now these programs can work, but just trying to do your program and addressing this, it won't work.
And the problem is, then the next layer of that problem, because you just identified what the problem is, which are siloed organizations doing their own thing to try to solve the problem. But the silos are reinforced by all of these nonprofits being in competition for the same dollars. So if you're going to a foundation that is funding, and you're competing for those dollars,
all 10 of y'all want the same little piece of pie.
Yeah, you have to say we're better than them. So you have to present yourself as these people over here. They're a little blind to what they're doing. We got it all together. And so in terms of actual working together, what you have to do, they don't do it. They're
forced not to do it.
Forced not to do it.
Let me say this, Don, and I've been saying this, and I am so happy about, God does certain things certain ways, just like how you didn't plan on being a film documentary specialist for the homeless, but God bumped you there. Doing this nonprofit and kind of the way I grew up. I went to college late. I went to one semester of school in 1977, got out due to some family issues, did not return to college until 2011. By that time, I had been a businessman for 20 some odd years. And once I got into this nonprofit world, I knew how to run a business. And then I found out that your nonprofit is a business that you don't have to pay taxes on. So it made it simple for me. But for the people who go in with a cause, trying to start a nonprofit, they guide them down this chute of applying for grants. I'm like, man, this is a business.
Right.
What is your business? And go work your business and then use the tax advantages to do your business. Then if you can get in on grants, like I said earlier, people are more attracted to people doing something than people asking for something. Right. And if you run your business like a business, which is a nonprofit, people will want to donate funds to you because they see you already understand this. So that's just a lesson in nonprofit and what you just mentioned about the fact that we are forced to compete when many of these organizations need to be working in unison to help solve the problem. Now, we've got about 5 minutes left in this documentary, as I mentioned earlier, over 40,000 miles. How many cities have you been in?
12 cities.
12 cities. If we could take the thread and run it through a needle and say one problem, would it be childhood adverse experiences? Would it be economic, lack of economics? Would it be lack of education? Which one? Or it might be something other. Which one do you think is that thread that leads through these 12 cities that you've kind of come up with?
Oh, it came down to two cities that were being very successful in reducing their numbers dramatically. Milwaukee reduced their homeless numbers by 95%. They're outside, the people living outside.
Wow.
Houston reduced their 63% overall homelessness. And they did it because the top executive, both places have a city and a county. Cities and counties don't normally work well together, but in this,
back to competing with them same dollars.
Right, exactly. So, but anyway, what they accomplished was they said, look, we suck at this and it has to be fixed. They came to a place where they understood they were failing and they wanted to fix it. Houston had the motivation from HUD saying, you're failing, we're about to slag you with some fines, so they got it together. Milwaukee just said, we're going to fix it. And as we're talking about these siloed institutions, what they did from the top, orders from the top, we're going to fix it and everybody's going to work together. That's it. Teamwork, everybody working together. That's how you solve homelessness. That's what we show in our film. And we invite you to come and see our film on Tuesday at 4:30, Tuesday the 20th at Clues Hall. And the mayor
hold up. Let me put this in, since we were talking about where they put all our black people when they were segregating the folks. If you get to go in free to Clues Hall for this. This deserves a round of applause just in itself, because we used to not be able to come in here, and they used to not bring anything in there that was attached to civic development. And I'm just going to stop right there, and I applaud Clues Hall for opening up their doors for a great event like this. That's just from my heart as a 65-year-old brother, man.
Mm-hmm. And the mayor will be there to give remarks about what, like we said, the top executive, it has to come from the top down to kind of corral this siloed system here. He'll be there. We have one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people who will be here to moderate it. He created the Housing First model to end homelessness, which is used internationally to 89% success rates. We are doing everything we can to bring the solution in front of the people of Indianapolis. And, if everybody embraces it, Indianapolis can fix everything. So what you would be coming by attending, especially if you're African American, you will be giving importance to this issue being solved. You will make a showing of to the leaders of the city that everybody cares about it and we want it fixed. Numbers. I mean, the old civil rights movement, it was numbers that spoke. We need to get off our couch and get active, get activated.
I'll go a little bit deeper than that, Don. If you don't care, why should they?
Exactly. That's
plain and simple. If you don't show up and care about this problem, where we are representing the homeless community in Indianapolis by an extraordinary amount. I mean, like you say, this is pandemic almost. If this was COVID, we'd be locking people up in the house again. If the numbers were this crazy as far as what we represent to the community versus what we represent to this I call it a disease. This homeless disease. But brother, I appreciate you so much, man. And anything that we can do here at RadioNext.tv, we're going to continue to push this message. This is what I live for, is to bring information, awareness, and resources so we can better understand it. And this documentary Tuesday at 4:30, Clues Hall, we're asking the public to come out. It don't cost you nothing but about an hour and a half of your time. And you can find out how you can be part of the solution instead of complaining about the problem.
Yeah. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Brother, how can they contact you and reach you more if they want to come alongside you and help be part of your initiative?
You can go to a solutiontohomelessness.com, a solutiontohomelessness.com. And there you can be directed into contacting us, or we'll have information up there, information about the film, information about, kind of we're about to put up a QR code that's going to lead to the website.
Hold up, man. This is part of my shtick. We got some people about 55 and up, and you scare the hell out of them with that QR code. So we'll give you the QR code for the younger folks, and then I'll get the typed out version with the link. I'm dead serious, man. I just had this conversation yesterday with my sister at CareSource. And she's 40-something, and she threw out QR out today, man. That's the devil to old black people. Don't be messing with us.
Well, if they can type in at solutiontohomelessness.com, they'll get the same thing. So,
love you, brother, man, and I appreciate what you're doing. Contact me, man, later on today, and then we can talk about some of the things that you need as we move towards Tuesday, man. I applaud you and thank you again for bringing this important message to RadioNext.tv.
All right, brother. God bless.
My brother, Donald Sawyer. Don't forget, please come out and check